Have you ever stopped to think that not every older adult who moves into a nursing home is actually happy with that decision? It's true. While many people assume this change solves all the problems for both the caregiver and the person being cared for, the reality is not always that simple. There are, in fact, seniors who regret the move, and more than you probably think. What few people talk about is that this regret doesn't usually show up on day one. It creeps in slowly, first as discomfort, then as frustration, and in many cases as a deep feeling of sadness, loneliness, or even a sense of failure. And you know what's worse? Most of the time, it could have been avoided. Of course, for some families, moving into a senior living facility is the right choice. But that only happens when the decision is made consciously, with proper planning, and, most importantly, when there's real alignment of expectations between the senior and the family. Now, if this decision is made in the middle of a crisis, at the height of exhaustion or emotional burnout, without truly understanding what it means, the chances of frustration are much higher. So, if you're in that moment, whether you're considering a facility for yourself, your parents, or someone you care for, this video is for you. Here, I'm going to walk you through the 5 main reasons why some seniors regret moving into a care home. And more than that, I'll show you how to prevent that from happening. Because in the end, a good decision doesn't come from fear or urgency. It comes from understanding. Imagine the following scene. Mrs. Lucia, 82 years old, starts having trouble taking care of herself. Small memory lapses, falls, difficulty eating on her own. Her children, juggling work, parenting, and their own lives, begin to feel increasingly overwhelmed. After a few conversations, not always as deep as they should be, they make a decision. I think it's time for Mom to move into a care home. She'll be safe, cared for, with companionship and 24/7 support. At first, everything seems fine. The facility is well equipped, the staff is kind, and there are other seniors around. But as the weeks go by, subtle complaints begin to surface. This doesn't feel like home. Or you don't come visit like you used to. Until one day, Mrs. Lucia says it clearly, I don't want to be here. This situation isn't rare. The decision to move into a senior living facility is often surrounded by complex emotions, fear, guilt, relief, insecurity, and even a social stigma. For the children, there's a mix of responsibility and exhaustion. For the older adult, the challenge is facing a series of losses: health, independence, home, routine, relationships. And what many don't realize is that regret doesn't always stem from the move itself. In most cases, it comes from one simple but often overlooked factor: unmet expectations. The senior often imagines they'll find something that doesn't quite match reality. Just like the children, who believe the care home will be the perfect solution, when in fact it solves some problems but creates others. Another key point: many of these decisions are made at the height of a crisis. After a fall, a sudden health decline, a scare. It's in that moment, under pressure, that families make choices without fully considering the emotional, social, and even practical consequences of the move. That's why understanding the reasons some seniors end up regretting the move is so important. Knowing this in advance allows for more conscious, more thoughtful, and above all, more respectful decisions for those who are aging. And to begin, let's go straight into the first reason: loss of autonomy greater than expected. One of the first shocks many seniors experience after moving into a care home is realizing that in practice, they've lost much more autonomy than they expected. And we're not talking about major life decisions like where to live or how to manage finances, which were often already being shared with family. The real impact is felt in the small everyday choices. In a care home, routines need to be organized to serve everyone. That means there are set times for meals, for bathing, for activities, and even for sleeping. And no matter how well structured or well-intentioned the facility is, This collective organization inevitably limits individual freedom. Imagine someone who has always enjoyed sleeping in, having a slow breakfast while listening to the radio, and cooking lunch whenever they felt like it. Suddenly, they're in a place where breakfast ends at a set time, lunch is served on a schedule, and they're expected, or at least encouraged, to follow a routine designed for the group, not for them. This kind of loss is incredibly sensitive. Many older adults don't fully realize how much it affects them until they're already there. The feeling of no longer being able to make basic choices, like what to eat today or whether or not to join an activity, slowly turns into a deep sense of powerlessness and frustration. And when that realization sets in, thoughts like, "My life doesn't belong to me anymore," or "I'm just another number here," begin to emerge, and that's when regret often follows. But thankfully, this can be avoided. The key lies in careful preparation. Before making any decisions, it's essential to visit different facilities, talk to current residents, get a clear understanding of the daily routine, and if possible, arrange for a short trial stay. In addition, looking for care homes that offer more flexibility, where certain aspects of the routine can be personalized, makes a big difference. After all, the more a senior feels in control of their own life, the more likely this transition will feel less like a loss and more like a new chapter, one with dignity, safety, and yes, preserved autonomy. And when autonomy is already a challenge, things become even more delicate with the arrival of another painful factor: the feeling of abandonment by the family. Reason 2, feeling abandoned by family. There's a silent expectation that often goes unspoken, the belief that family will remain present even after the move to a care home. And in the beginning, that usually happens. During the first few days, visits are frequent, phone calls are regular, and there's a collective effort to make everything feel as natural as possible. But as time goes on, life continues its course. The children go back to work, focus on raising their own kids, managing their own responsibilities. Visits become less frequent, phone calls start to space out, and before anyone realizes it, weeks or even months have passed since the last time they were together. On the other side, the older adult, already going through a difficult period of adjustment, starts interpreting this absence in a deeply painful way, as abandonment. And this isn't necessarily about conscious neglect from the family. In most cases, it's not. It's simply the pace of modern life, the overwhelming number of commitments, and the struggle to balance it all. But for the person living in the care home, the perception is very different. Time moves more slowly. The predictable daily routine makes each day without a visit or a phone call feel longer, heavier. The loneliness, which used to be softened by the comfort of one's own home, becomes even more apparent in a shared environment where not everyone is emotionally on the same wavelength. Phrases like, "they left me here," "they forgot about me," or "now that I'm no longer useful, I've been discarded," begin to appear. And along with them comes regret. Not necessarily for living in the care home, but for how the relationship with family has changed. This is one of the most common and most painful reasons why many seniors end up feeling deeply sad and dissatisfied with the decision to move. That's why, if there's one thing that must be discussed before the move and reinforced afterward, it's this: how will the family bond be maintained? This isn't a minor detail. It's essential to help the older adult feel loved, remembered, and above all, still connected. And when this emotional absence combines with the loss of things that once gave life meaning, another powerful reason for regret begins to emerge: the loss of purpose. Reason 3, shock from the shared routine. Moving into a care home often means stepping into an environment where the daily routine is shared and structured to serve many people at once. For someone who has always lived with complete freedom to set their own schedule, pace, and activities, this change can be very difficult and, quite often, unexpectedly frustrating. In a care home, meals are served at fixed times, activities are pre-scheduled, and rest happens during designated hours. The spontaneity that once defined daily life becomes limited. This rigid structure, designed to keep things practical and organized for everyone, can create a real sense of lost freedom and control. What's more, the group rhythm doesn't always align with each resident's personal rhythm. Some older adults are more active and enjoy socializing, while others prefer peace, solitude, and quiet time. In a shared space, striking that balance is not always possible. The shock of this standardized routine can lead to discomfort, restlessness, and even anxiety. Many seniors begin to miss the flexibility and personalization they once had, which can contribute to feelings of regret about having moved into the facility. Another important point is that these collective routines don't always take into account key personal preferences, like dietary habits, favorite times for exercise, or the need for rest at different hours than the ones scheduled by the home. That's why it's essential to clearly understand how a facility operates before making the move. Visiting the home at different times of the day, talking to current residents and staff, and, if possible, doing a short trial stay can help reduce the likelihood of this type of adjustment shock. It's also worth seeking out homes that allow some degree of flexibility, those that try to accommodate individual preferences and needs. When older adults feel that they still have some control over their daily lives, they're much more likely to view this new chapter as a positive one, rather than a regretful loss. This shock from a shared routine may seem like a minor issue at first, but it's actually one of the leading reasons many seniors feel unhappy or frustrated after the move. And the next factor we'll explore is also deeply tied to autonomy and to the importance of respecting personal choices. Reason 4, emotional loneliness and lack of affection. Even in a place surrounded by others, many seniors who move into a care home face a quiet but deeply felt struggle: emotional loneliness and the lack of meaningful affection. The physical presence of other residents and staff does not necessarily guarantee the emotional support and heartfelt connection they long for. Loneliness can take many forms. For some, it's the absence of regular family visits, which tend to become less frequent over time due to the busy lives of children and grandchildren. For others, it's the lack of deeper emotional contact, the heartfelt conversations, the comforting touch, things that can't be replaced by surface-level social interactions. This emotional deprivation has a direct impact on a senior's well-being. Feeling forgotten or abandoned can lead to sadness, anxiety, and even depression. These emotional effects can, in turn, worsen other health issues, such as loss of appetite, sleep disturbances, and lack of motivation to engage in daily activities. It's important to understand that loneliness in a care home isn't just about being physically alone. It's about feeling emotionally disconnected. A resident may be surrounded by people, yet still feel invisible and unsupported. This emotional disconnection can greatly contribute to regret over the decision to move. That's why maintaining strong emotional ties with family is essential. Regular visits, phone calls, messages, and moments of genuine connection help ease feelings of abandonment and reinforce a sense of belonging and love. Additionally, care homes themselves can play a role in reducing this emotional loneliness by creating spaces and opportunities for residents to build meaningful relationships, fostering a warm, inclusive environment where seniors feel valued, heard, and emotionally safe. Finally, it's crucial for family members and caregivers to stay attentive to signs of loneliness and sadness so they can respond quickly, whether by strengthening emotional bonds or seeking professional support when needed. By taking these steps, emotional loneliness and lack of affection don't have to become reasons for regret or unhappiness during this important phase of life. Reason 5, rushed decision. Choosing to move into a senior care home is a major and delicate step. However, in many cases, that decision is made hastily, without enough time for reflection, planning, or open dialogue. and it's often this rush that leads to later regrets. The urgency can arise from many different situations: a medical emergency, caregiver burnout, a family crisis, or even pressure from other relatives. But when the decision is made in a hurry, the natural process of emotional acceptance and adjustment for the senior is disrupted. Without enough time to emotionally prepare the older adult, explore different care home options, visit facilities, and involve the senior in the decision-making process, the transition is likely to feel traumatic. Feelings of losing control, the shock of a new environment, and unmet expectations are common. What's more, rushed decisions often overlook important factors like the senior's personality, preferences, specific needs, and the type of care offered by the home. This can result in a mismatch that makes adaptation even harder. Another issue is the lack of preparation among family members and caregivers, who also need to be aligned and ready to offer emotional and logistical support during the transition. Without this structured support, the older adult may feel abandoned or overwhelmed, increasing the risk of dissatisfaction and regret. To avoid this outcome, it's essential that the decision is made with care, planning, and open communication. Listening to the senior, thoughtfully evaluating options, preparing everyone emotionally, and creating a gradual transition plan can make all the difference. That way, the move becomes a conscious and respectful choice, not something imposed, which greatly reduces the chances of regret and helps the senior embrace this new stage of life with greater peace and fulfillment. Moving into a care home can absolutely be the right choice when it's made with awareness, preparation, and genuine respect for the real needs of the person involved. There's no magic formula or one-size-fits-all solution. Every person and every family has their own unique circumstances, wishes, and limits. That's why there isn't a single right decision for everyone, but there is always a decision that's right for the moment and right for that specific situation. It's essential to remember that this decision deserves time, open conversation, and plenty of information. Talking honestly as a family, truly listening to the senior's wishes, exploring different types of care services, and visiting facilities in person, these are all steps that help reduce fear, frustration, and future regret. The more thoughtful and informed the process is, the greater the chance of building a new chapter of life that is both joyful and respectful. If you're currently facing this decision, or know someone who is, let this video be an invitation to pause, reflect, and move forward with calm and empathy. Share this content with family members, friends, and caregivers who may also need to better understand this reality. The more people who have access to this kind of information, the more conscious and compassionate the decisions will be. This channel exists to offer just that: helpful information, thoughtful reflections, and support for both caregivers and those growing older. Together, we can turn a challenging stage of life into one that is more human, welcoming, and dignified. Don't forget to watch the upcoming videos, and of course, leave your comment or question below. Your voice helps strengthen this community, which grows every day in empathy and understanding.